pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all so much for being here. We truly appreciate it. We are first going to start off with an introduction by Dr. Cook for a new hire.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to recommend tonight for hire Mrs. Grace Norman as a special education teacher to begin immediately with board approval. Ms. Norman earned her Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education with a special education emphasis in emotional impairment and a minor in speech, language, and hearing sciences from Northern Michigan University. Mrs. Norman gained experience working with young students when she co-taught in a kindergarten, first grade classroom from May to August as part of our Little Hornets summer school program. She gained additional experience during her student teaching at North Aurelius Elementary School in Mason, both in a first grade general education classroom and then a special education EI classroom. Ms. Norman made a very positive impression through 2 rounds of interviews. The interview committee unanimously recommended her for a final interview with Dr. Spina, myself, Ms. Vanders, and Ms. Campbell. When speaking to the Mason Special Education Director, she stated that Ms. Norman was excellent in working with the students and parents during her student teaching and an asset to the building culture. During all interviews, Ms. Norman clearly showed her excitement for working with young students. Ms. Norman was seeking employment specifically in Williamston, as she lives in Williamston, is getting married to a Williamston graduate, and plans on staying in Williamston. She interviewed in various districts, but chose Williamston for its great reputation and hometown feel. With no reservation, I recommend to the board to approve Ms. Norman's hire as a special education teacher for Williamston Community Schools. Any questions for me? Thank you.
All right, very exciting. Do I have a motion for hire for Ms. Grace Norman?
I move that we hire Grace Norman as a special education teacher.
Second.
First by Deb, second by Dave. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations. Grace, you can stay for the meeting, or Dr. Cook was just letting you know, or you can exit. We will not feel one way or the other. So, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We look forward to you starting. Oh, you started today. Yay. All right, this brings us to our first set of citizen comments. This first set of citizen comments is for agenda items only. If you have anything you would like to address the board, you can step to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Does anybody have anything to address the board? I know you do, but you're gonna, just for this particular side. Okay. All right, then Adam, I will turn it over for celebrations.
All right, good evening, board members. Celebrations for this evening. 3 stories that are highlighted on the website. The first was our high school musical, Freaky Friday the musical, was held over the last 2 weekends, directed by Miss Chelsea Bolus. Did a fantastic job. Some new feature this year was having the musical spread out over 2 weekends, which personally I thought was a good idea. Allowed a little more time for advertising and gave all the people involved with it a little bit of a break between the many shows that they did. A lot of parents, a lot of volunteers and staff have contributed, and our family at least really enjoyed it, and kids did a great job. So we got some photos up on the site, and congratulations and thank you to all involved. Next story featured on the site, Miss Tammy Hosford, who is a teacher, 6th grade teacher here at Williamston Middle School, was named the VFW Middle School Teacher of the Year for our local chapter in Fowlerville. She was able to go there for a dinner and presented with an award. Deb LaFleur, middle school principal, was also there, and very well deserved for Ms. Hosford, and congratulations to her on that achievement. I should say also that one of the reasons she was selected was because she's put extensive time into networking with the senior center in town and developing those relationships and connections between our middle school students and the members at the senior center. And so that was one of the reasons why she was selected for that honor. And next celebration on the site was the middle school math counts team took 2nd place at the local MSU chapter competition. We also have 2 students that are moving on to the state finals for that organization. Laura Hill led that initiative at the middle school. And if you go out into the trophy case out here, you'll see a lot of math counts trophies. We're kind of creating a bit of a dynasty there with our middle school math students. And so congratulations again to those students who participated and for their outstanding showing. And lastly, we have, I think, a slideshow in your packet of different submissions to the Red Cedar Garden Club Smoky Bear poster competition. This is something that's facilitated at the elementary campus by Miss Angie Herrick every year. Students submit their designs, which are then selected by the members of the Garden Club. The winners of that then advance on to state and national level competitions, and usually those are featured in the post office here in town. So in addition to these students and their excellent work, you can see other entries as well that are posted for display at the post office. And those are celebrations for this evening. Pending any questions?
Any questions for Adam?
Thank you for putting that over in the packet.
Yeah, that was nice. All right, no education update. Superintendent's report is next.
Upcoming events on the 11th of March, as the board knows, is a housing committee meeting, and then followed on the 17th by our next regular board meeting. On your tables, I put a copy of the Mid-Michigan Regional Education Policy Guide. That's something that's produced. Several counties around us kind of come to some type of an agreement on areas of emphasis in terms of policy focus, and then different superintendents of the different districts kind of step in to take the lead on some of those issues. I'm involved with the focus on state assessment and looking at perhaps different ways that we can ascertain how our students are progressing in school versus the current system that we have. Moving on to professional development, that was done on the 14th of February. So I'll kind of go through the buildings here, and you can see the details of the agendas in your packet. For Discovery Elementary, they continue to work on their conscious discipline focus, especially looking at trauma-informed practices and behavior and classroom management. As you know, that's an ongoing focus for that building and will continue to be throughout the remainder of this year. Explore, again, the same, looking at conscious discipline, but as we talked about before, they focus on a book study approach. So looking at the same concepts and same materials, just doing it in a different way. They also reserve some time to continue to look at their implementation of their core ELA program. Speaking of assessments, the middle school focused on an in-depth review of student results on the NWEA screener and the supporting interventions for those, as well as department time to look at curricular and assessment alignment. High school looked at a variety of topics, from update to their emergency procedures to EpiPen training. They also continue to work on Board Goal 5 with common grading and reserve some time as well for department work. And then one new feature that we did on this last PD, we had our entire transportation department stay for PD when they got back from their afternoon routes. Again, remember this is a half day. NISA came in to provide training on our new RTAC kits. The board might recall that we were a recipient of a grant as well as several other districts in the area. RTAC kits are enhanced Stop the Bleed kits. So while we've had Stop the Bleed kits for almost a decade now, the RTAC kits are kind of like the next version of that. And so they have some different tools and resources in those that we hadn't previously trained on. So this was kind of our first go around with that, having NISA come in and train the drivers. We then took the kits and found standardized locations to put all those in all the school buses. So that's now the first department to have the RTAC kits in place in the district. Moving forward, we're installing the boxes for the kits in all the other buildings currently. And then as soon as we're able to get through training on the items in the kit, we'll place the kits into those. And so then we'll have a variety of options from Stop the Bleed kits and the enhanced RTAC kits. I also worked with the drivers on a review of our relocation reunification plan. All right, that is it for PD. Any questions on that from the 14th?
Does NISA provide that training for free?
They do, yeah. And NISA's always been just an outstanding partner. They've supported this every time. We started off Stop the Bleed. I think we were the first district in the state that I'm aware of to do Stop the Bleed. We had a grant partnership with McLaren Hospital, but since then NISA has really just picked it up. And every time we have new staff or ask for support, they're right there. So they've been fantastic. Any other questions on PD? All right, moving on to bond updates. Last week, we had the bids that were released for the lockers at the middle and high school, as well as the tennis court bids. They did interviews with the bidders last Friday, which from what I understand were very positive. I know the bids initially came back a little bit over on lockers and significantly under on tennis courts, but obviously there's a lot that needs to be looked at. But based on the initial release of those bids, we're actually under budget when you look at both projects combined. We'll see if that holds as we complete the process. Explorer Elementary, actually tomorrow afternoon, is going to have a committee that's going to start to look at the first drafts of the school layout. And so we'll get feedback from that committee at the school, and then take that back to, well, the architects will be there, but take that feedback back and then make any changes or updates that they need to based on those conversations.
Can I ask a question on that?
Mhm.
There was a group that was going up north. Did that visit already happen?
Yeah, so French, the architects, had designed a similar school, and they wanted us to go take a look at that and see if that would meet the needs of our staff. As a whole, which I'm glad we went, while there were some really good things there, there were a lot of concepts built into that weren't going to work for us, which is why you go and do the visit, right? So we were able to take some of that feedback, bring that back, and they've made significant changes to the layout based on the feedback of the staff.
Great.
So,
Okay.
so tomorrow's kind of the next iteration. They've made that first change. They're going to bring it back to them and then and see what their thoughts and feedback are on the latest design concept.
Thank you.
We have an initial options for the pickup and drop-off lane. Those have been presented to the city for initial review. They're going to consider to look at those and then figure out how that factors into the overall traffic pattern at the campus. Bids for softball, we anticipate being published in April. And then there is ongoing discussion that's just starting on prioritizing the replacement of, it's called the pool pack, but it's basically the HVAC system for the pool. It's very, very expensive, and it's going to require an extensive work at the pool, either tearing out the old HVAC system piece by piece, which is going to be a long process, or putting a hole in the ceiling or the wall to get the old one out. So from what I understand, the pool was literally built around this, so it's going to be a massive undertaking. But if that fails, which it's kind of at the end of its, well, it is at the end of its life cycle, that would be a significant problem for the continuity of the pool. So trying to push that up as much as we can, understanding though that these other competing initiatives are also being worked on. And forgive me, on the bond, I skipped one part of the update. Zebra K9 provides a semester update. This is the detection dog team, and so you can see in your packet a breakdown of how that resource was allocated over the first semester of this school year. So I think I've covered everything. Are there any questions on the report as a whole?
All right, thank you, Adam. The only board committee reports is from ISOA, so Needham School Officer Association met February 5th, and this was the first meeting of the new installment of members. And Brenda Pilgrim, who is the Assistant Director of Government Relations through MASB, came to speak to us about the legislative and budget updates, or uncertainties maybe is what they should be called. There were significant uncertainties as it came to school funding and what that will look like, because if you recall, there was a lot of executive orders issued, and it left a lot of programs uncertain as to what's going to happen, including Head Start, Department of Ed, the school voucher system, and what funding looks like. Currently, funding is stable because, as you know, school funding is done on a yearly basis, so our funding is good for this year. However, there will be significant impacts for next year. Again, uncertainties at this point, but expect uncertainties moving forward. Particularly with Medicaid funding. As you know, $6 million goes to local districts for reimbursement for medical services such as physical therapy, OT, and so the fear is that Medicaid will be reduced or dismantled altogether. So it was a very somber meeting at first. Not a lot of questions because we don't have answers to any questions right now. So this was right before the governor issued her plans for the next, her budget for the next year. So we didn't have that information before we met. It was coming out later that afternoon. And then Lori Lyko from East Lansing Public Schools, their superintendent, came and talked to us about what Superintendent's Roundtable looks like, and again, there's just a little bit of uncertainties with some things. And then district updates. Our next meeting is this Wednesday, and Brad Banasic from MASB will be there to talk to the group about evaluation changes. So if you want to be a part of that, we meet virtually and we also meet in person, so let me know. And I can get you the link or tell you where that meeting is. And that's it. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we don't have any discussion items, so I will move into action items. Can I get a motion for the consent calendar?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on February 3rd, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Dave. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there are some roll call items. The first is to approve the Chrisman Company contract.
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the construction management contract with the Chrisman Company as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Doug. Any discussion around this? Okay, Amanda, can you take us through roll call, please?
Amanda, yes. Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Sarah?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, and the second, can I get a motion for approval of the telecommunication structure cabling replacement that Mr. Doyen talked to us about at last meeting?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools approve a contract with Amcon Telecommunication for structured cabling at the middle school and high school. This work will be completed at the cost of no more than $222,000, with monies to come from the E-rate program and the district sinking fund.
Second. Motion by Chris, second by Heather. Is there any discussion? Can you take us through roll call, Amanda?
Amanda, yes. Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Sarah?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Separate action items. Can I get a motion to approve a candidate for the Michigan School Board Association Board of Directors?
Move that the Williamston Community Board Schools Board of Education cast their vote for the Board of Directors of the Michigan Association of School Boards for Guillermo Z. Lopez.
Second. Motion by Dave, second by Heather. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Can I get a motion for approved maternity leave extension from Ms. Merrill?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools approve maternity leave extension for Libby Merrill through March 31st, 2025.
Second. Motion by Dave, second by Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the 2024-2025 budget amendment?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the 2024-2025 amended budget as presented.
Second.
Motion by Dave, motion by Chris, second by Deb. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next is to approve board policies to add, rewrite, revise, and remove. Can I get a motion first for approval of board policies to add?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education add the following board policies: 5355 Michigan Earned Sick Time Act, ESTA, and 5355F Michigan Earned Sick Time Act, ESTA form.
Second.
All right, there is some discussion around this. I am going to ask that we table this until the revised June policy is published. There's just some things that, do you want to add context?
Yeah, so we had the original policy that went through the policy committee that you looked at your previous meeting. And then literally at like the 11th hour, the legislature and the governor signed changes to minimum wage and the ESTA law. So this policy, in the meantime, has become antiquated and out of date. It's not in keeping with the changes that were made. So Trin should have another policy, they tell me tomorrow. My recommendation would move that policy directly to action on the 17th so that we're legally compliant with the requirements of the law based on the latest changes that came out a week and a half ago.
So you want us to?
So the process that we can do is we could go about the vote and vote how you want, but if we vote it down, then it will be null and void anyway. Okay? Does everybody understand?
So, I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, so we're going to go through the voting process, but if you don't want this policy based on Adam's recommendation and what I said, then we will vote this down. I'm not
Got it.
telling you how to vote, I'm just saying that if you don't want this policy. Okay? All right, we have a motion by Chris, was it second by Dave?
Yes.
Second by Dave. All those in favor? All those opposed? Aye. Okay, motion does not pass. Can I get a motion to approve board policies to rewrite?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the following policies as rewritten. 1510, Bylaw and Policy Development Systems. 5190, Staff Development Opportunities. 5560, Resignation of Professional Staff. 8595, Concussion and Athletic Activities.
Second. Motion by Dave, second by Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve board policies to revise?
Move that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education revise policy 2590, Administrative Professional Development.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Deb. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve policies to remove?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education remove the following policies: 5200, Staff Conduct; 5220, Staff-Student Relations; 5220R, Staff-Student Relations; 5770, Non-Certified Staff Orientation; 5780, Non-Certified Staff Probation; 5850, resignation of non-certified staff. 5860, reduction of non-certified staff. 5930, leaves and absences. And 8090, release of a student during the school day.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Review of board goals. And we do have one piece of correspondence, retirement from Mrs. Barrett at the high school. Heather, did you want to say a few things? Big loss.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to summarize her contributions, but she's been here 19 years and has worked with thousands of students and made countless sacrifices of her time, her family's time, putting our students first. Probably has the record for hours spent on the phone, working with students and parents, well after we would have expected her to be done for the day. So truly a selfless professional and a phenomenal educator, and she's earned this, but we will miss her.
All right, thank you very much. We wish her all the best. So that brings us to our second part of citizen comments. This part is to address the board on any issue and topic that you have. I do want to say that this is not, if you're looking for a conversation or a dialogue, this is not that. This is a time for you to talk to us and then for us to take the information. But it's not a point of, if you're looking for us to have a conversation, you can meet with me after the meeting, or you can set up a meeting with Dr. Spina. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. But you will have 3 minutes to address the board. I do have Dr. Lewis that will be able to tell you when you have 30 seconds left, and then it will ding, and then you will know, okay? So at this time, if there's anybody that would like to address the board, you can come forward to the podium. You are more than welcome to. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just come to the podium. I'm sorry, can you also please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Morgan Paulson. My address is 1207 Berkshire Drive. I wish I could stand up here and say that what I'm here for is an isolated incident, but it's not. And I'm not referring to the horrific and vile threatening emails, online comments, texts, and phone calls that have been made to my husband from the very people who want to stand up here and preach about doing the right thing and integrity. As much as I could stand up here and defend him, I don't need to, because the facts do, and the facts defend him and the school. But what I am here to do is to speak directly to you and the parents in this room. The events that have occurred these past few weeks are unfortunately not the first we've had to endure in our 5 years in this town. And let me be very clear when I say that the only people who have perpetuated these events are the members of the wrestling family. I'm standing up here to speak to the disgraceful adult in this room who threatened my children, and to the disgraceful parents of the children who went to school and bullied my 2nd grader and my 6th grader over an issue that has nothing to do with them. And this is where I draw the line. I am not speaking out in the countless and unproductive social media posts. I'm not yelling at you as I drive by in my car, and I'm not interrupting your dinners with your families. I am standing here face to face to express my disgust that I have. I am also standing here face to face to tell you to stop threatening my family and my children.
Mrs. Paulson, if you could direct your comments towards the board, that would be most helpful. Thank you.
Threatening my children that are 7 and 11 years old. Because just as all of them feel they are here to protect their child, I am here to protect mine as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to address the board?
Hello, my name is Misty Miller. I live at 3201 Britton Road, Perry. I stand before you tonight not just as a concerned parent, but as an advocate for our student athletes, young men and women who have dedicated countless hours of hard work, discipline, and perseverance to represent our school with pride. Unfortunately, due to a failure in leadership, their efforts were stripped away, and an entire team was denied the opportunity they rightfully earned. The responsibility of an athletic director is not just about scheduling games or organizing events. It is about ensuring that our students are protected, prepared, and given every fair opportunity to compete. It is about leadership, diligence, and accountability. Mr. Page Paulson failed in that responsibility. The failure is personal to me. My daughter is the face of women's wrestling at Williamston, the fastest growing sport in the nation. At the beginning of the season, she approached Mr. Paulson with hope of competing in both wrestling and competitive cheer. Without valid reasoning, he denied her request, telling her she should focus solely on cheerleading. Ironically, due to a lack of encouragement, advertising, and support, responsibilities that also fall under his role, there were not enough girls for a competitive cheer team. Only then was she allowed to wrestle. But that wasn't the only failure my daughter and her teammates faced this season. The recent situation with our high school wrestling team is a devastating example of negligence at the highest level. Our team won regionals fair and square, only to be forced to forfeit their victory because of Mr. Paulson's incompetence. It was Adrian Madison, our competitors, who discovered the error when they realized that Mr. Paulson had sent the wrong roster to our regional competition. He mistook a 28-athlete roster for a 14-athlete roster. This mistake led to the discovery that one of our athletes was missing a physical, a requirement that should have been checked and confirmed long before the season even started. What's even more unacceptable is that Mr. Paulson never sought help to correct this issue. Had he done so, a deadline could have been given and the missing physical could have been produced in time. Instead, our wrestlers were forced to watch their hard-earned opportunity slip away, not because they weren't good enough, not because they didn't win, but because the person responsible for ensuring their eligibility failed to do his job. And this is not an isolated incident. There are numerous other instances where Mr. Paulson has dropped the ball across various sports programs. The role of an athletic director is to support and uplift student athletes, not to hinder them. Our students deserve leadership that prioritizes them. Our parents deserve to trust the adults in charge are doing their jobs. And our school deserves an athletic program that is run with professionalism and integrity. Therefore, I respectfully urge the board to take decisive action. For the sake of our students and the future of our athletic programs, I ask that Mr. Paulson step down or be removed from his position. Leadership requires accountability, and when that accountability is lost, so is trust. Our athletes and coaches did their part. They showed up, trained, and won. Now it is time for us as a community to do our part and ensure that such failures do not happen again. Thank you.
Pat Weber, 4082 Meadowdale, Williamston, Michigan. Good evening. I know most of you, if you don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident. I've been a teacher here for 15 years. I was a coach here for 10 years. I have a student at the high school and the middle school. My wife Kelly and I chose to live here. It may have been a deal breaker if she wanted to live here to raise our kids. I stood here 25 years ago as a senior, fresh off a state championship, the first in 59 years in a male sport. And at that time, we were hopeful the district would include the program in the plans for a standalone facility. You have already heard about immense pain, and I can only imagine how the whole community feels about this. And I want to be clear to everyone in this room, wrestling is a sport of control, not violence. I stand here also as the Booster Club president, and I want to thank Dr. Spina for coming out to us that evening to hear us out. Williamston means wrestling. We date back to 1955. We have the oldest tournament in the state. We have the oldest booster club in the state. We have the longest golf outing in the state. It's becoming a generational caretaking and is respected across the state with the programs that you may have seen this weekend in Detroit Catholic Central, Hudson, Dundee, and the likes. For sheer numbers, the athletic budget covers $200 for tournaments, which is one of 8 for a season, and the program gets another $200 for supplies, which doesn't even come close. This was a generational experience, and let there be no mistake, the boys sitting behind me, they're back to work. This team will be on a tear, and these boys will be on a mission, and their names will be synonymous with the names in this community like Mooney, Monette, Simmons, Mahaney, and others. We understand and appreciate the process in addressing this concern. What we do expect is to know how this pattern of conduct will be addressed in the future. Thank you.
Nicole Stifler, 2222 Dennis Road, Williamston. Get some props here. 3 minutes will never be long enough to explain the severity of this situation at hand. But imagine being 5 years old, stepping onto a wrestling mat for the first time, wearing your singlet, headgear, and wrestling shoes with the nerves running through your body. The gym is loud, the crowd is cheering, and the whistle blows. That was my son's first whistle. That started his wrestling journey. For years, these boys dedicated themselves to the sport. Wrestling wasn't just an activity, it was a way of life. Their fathers wrestled before them, and now they carried the legacy. They trained relentlessly, week-long camps, early morning workouts, private lessons, and traveling across the country just to compete. They knew wrestling demanded more than just skill. It required grit, mental toughness, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. They don't get to turn on the lights in the gym and play basketball. They have to set up the entire gym full of mats, screens, tables, etc., most being hauled from quite a distance, and even at times hauling them from the upstairs wrestling room, and then putting them away at the end of a grueling day. This year, their dedication paid off. The team dominated the season, overcame injuries, and fought through adversity. They battled their way to regionals, defeating Adrian Madison in undeniable victories. They were regional champs for the first time since 1999. Their dream was real. They were headed to states. They faced the online hate. They bleached their hair in unity. They proved that no one could take away the bond they had built. A technicality was suddenly used against them. The administration stripped them from their title. Not because they lost, not because of failure, but because of a failure in leadership. They earned victory. Their earned victory was erased. A season of sacrifice was taken from them, and one that could have been avoided had our administration done their job and made sure all athletes had proper paperwork submitted. Where is accountability since that day? If you can imagine an entire team of young adults in a room learning of this is something I hope none of you ever have to experience. Being stripped of something they earned, not given. They beat Adrian Madison that night. The tears were real. My son's wrestling journey was over. He heard his last whistle that day. Imagine your last whistle being determined by a failing administration. I, as a parent, had to console my senior after getting text messages like this. Should have wrestled in front of our entire town on a stage today. And one like this. I don't know if it gets any cooler than that, with a picture of the stage that this team was supposed to wrestle on. This was more than just a wrestling season. This was a once-in-a-lifetime team that should have been remembered for their heart, not for their unfair decision. I leave this picture here today, not just as a memory, but as a reminder to never let what happened to these boys happen again. to honor the Williamston Wrestling Elite Eight because they earned their place in history. These boys fought and fought and fought, and they're not mean. No threats were made. These boys did what they had to do, and I hope that you guys do what you have to do, because this was their time to shine, and we should have been at states this year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Devin Young, address 800 Frost Road, Williamston. I'm not as well prepared as the other parents tonight. I had a moment to speak with Dr. Spina already. Just so everybody understands, this has been going on obviously for a little while. It's not just about wrestling. This is more so about the community, okay? This is more so making sure that we are protecting the ones that we hold nearest and dearest to our heart, our children, all right? For those of you that do know who I am, I've been coaching in the community I graduated high school in 2004. My first coaching job was 2004. I was in high school coaching these kids. I've watched these kids come up through the community, molding them into young men and women that are well respected, have great character, determination, hardworking. That's what we're looking for our kids. Now, what we're looking for as adults is not to hold our kids responsible for what we were told, an adult problem, an adult mistake. We're very quick to reprimand our children, right, and uphold them, and they had no wrongdoing whatsoever. So what we're asking is, look into it. We've talked about integrity, we've talked about character, okay? We've talked about a lot of things that we want to do right for our children. This is one of them, okay? I know in my job, if things continue to fall apart or I mess up time and time again, I'm held accountable. Not just one time this has happened. This has happened multiple times on multiple different sports, okay? And you're definitely going to probably hear all of it. So what we're asking is, if there was true integrity and knowing that there's something that has been missed and messed up, it should have been brought to all attention at one time. And then we could have conversed as a team, because we do have a board. And then we could have came up with a better plan, and we could have announced it to our children. The hardest thing I ever had to do was break my kid's heart. That coach for the last 13 years. They did everything correct. They did everything we asked them to do. They bought into the program. They believed in the coaches. They believed in everything. But
30 seconds.
because the fact that, and I respect this, you got to have family time. Well, every Saturday and Sunday, my family is standing next to me in that gym. Wish that gentleman would have just drove to Olivet, because I was the gentleman that had to disclose everything to all of our kids. I had to be the guy that broke everybody's heart. I had to be the one that was letting them down. I had to make sure that I was still standing there and fighting for them too at the end. Because I'll tell you what, we're not going to let this happen to any other kids. And it's now time for us as a community to stand up for what we believe in. I think actions need to be taken, and I think he should step down.
Thank you. My name is Amanda Hissong. My address is 10378 Pollard Road in Hazlet, and I'm speaking on behalf of Lauren Johnson today because she's unable to be here. I'm disappointed by the representation of this situation and how Williamston's reputation has been impacted. I watched Justin, my now husband, wrestle at Williamston back when we were dating in high school, and how amazing the opportunity was for him to earn his way into individual states for Williamston his senior year. I can't imagine if the team accomplished that during his time. I've also spent the last 5 years in that wrestling room/gym watching our kids wrestle, and I never thought I'd see the day that I chose to stay after practice to watch other kids wrestle. Those other kids are the ones missing out on this opportunity to go to states that they earned as a team. I've witnessed the passion, drive, relentlessness behind this crew. I've known some of these kids their whole life,
And some I've only known based on how they've impacted Chase, our son, by being a role model or mentor in Williamston's wrestling. Chase was almost in tears at senior night because he couldn't believe they were retiring already. These kids are great, parents, families are great, and I also know what goes into the coaching commitment and dedication, so much time into this role. These coaches are in their own on their own stomping grounds, making a difference for this sport. Coaches in the school are often staff of the school or contract external hires who chose to volunteer their time paid by season on the school's budget. When a coach is externally hired outside of the school district, they have very limited visibility into a student's profile / forms, etc. There is typically a responsible adult at the school who should bridge that gap. From my coaching perspective, I chose to volunteer my personal time to coach a sport for the school that I knew it was a big commitment. I had support from other coaches who were also not employed primarily at the school, and a reputable school leader who was my direct point of contact and helped every step of the way until my team was 100% eligible. It didn't stop after the roster was established. We had to consider things like emergency contacts, ride-sharing permissions, and even medications and allergies. With zero visibility to the student's profile, I worked through situations case by case, but again, had the support established. I did not get the access to the school system. It was by request and only when it was needed and when there was needed. Reflecting on this is the risk of stale information versus the system where changes are immediately reflected. The situation and how they follow through is handled will absolutely determine if I choose to continue coaching. I did it for the kids, the passion for the sport. When required forms are needed, whether it's a physical, transportation, grades, or any other corrective plan for that matter involving a student, just understand the coach's limitations. If that coach's responsibility to keep tabs on all aspects of eligibility and roster coordinations, the next steps are about as clear as it gets.
Thank you. Stop there.
Thank you.
My name is Emily Young. I live at 800 Frost Road, Williamston. My husband and I have 3 boys in the Williamston athletic system. I'm here tonight because our student athletes have been failed by the athletic department here at Williamston High School. For the first time since 1999, the Williamston wrestling team earned their spot at team states. Only after winning that title did our athletic director, Paige Paulson, conduct an internal audit on the Williamston wrestling team because he had failed to send the proper roster over to our host regional tournament AD. He then found missing paperwork on a wrestler in the system. Paige contacted MHSAA and forfeited for the team, crushing their opportunity to advance to team states. He kept this decision hidden from the team, parents, and majority of the coaching staff. Paige did not deliver the heartbreaking news to the team. Coaches were informed the day following the forfeiture and had to break the news to the team without answers as to why or how this happened. An administrative error was used to strip these athletes of carrying out their success on the big stage. I also want to bring to the board's attention that Paige's wife runs the photography business, which he has made the wrestling team, as well as many other sports teams, use over the last several years. This has limited opportunities for other photographers, including students and local professionals within our community. This is yet another example of lack of transparency and accountability within our athletic department. Here are some proposed actions and reforms that I suggest. 1, immediate resignation of the athletic director. His lack of transparency, failure to advocate, and poor communication have made it clear new leadership is necessary. 2, we have to have mandatory appeals process. No team should be forced to forfeit without a formal review, involving all coaches, administrators, and school board representative. 3, we need a paperwork oversight procedures, a checks and balances system where the AD performs an early audit during the beginning of the season. 4, we need a forfeiture approval process. No single person should have the power to strip an entire team of the opportunities that these kids have had. Forfeiture decisions due to a clerical error must require school board approval. 5, all coaching staff needs to be involved in eligibility decisions. All involved coaching staff must be informed immediately of any eligibility concerns and be a part of discussions before a final decision is made. 6, we need
30 seconds.
transparency and communication in a policy. Any decision impacting eligibility should be documented with a written explanation of what was done to prevent forfeiture. 7, stronger protections for student athletes. No student athlete should be unfairly penalized for an administrative mistake beyond their control. Our wrestlers fought for their chance at team states. They made history, and that opportunity was taken away, not by an opponent on the mat, but by a decision that was made by our AD. This cannot happen again. We need accountability, we need leadership, we need change, and it starts with new leadership in our athletic department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Melissa Harding. It's 132 Clark Road, Dansville. Pretty much everybody's said a lot of what I said, but I'm still going to. I have the honor of speaking to you today as both a parent and supporter of our incredible wrestling team. I have 2 young men on the team and a daughter in 8th grade, all who play multiple sports. My husband, who has been a dedicated volunteer coach since we've moved here from Florida in 2021. From the very beginning of the season, our athletes set their sights on a clear goal to make it to team states. The path to that goal was anything but easy. These athletes spent countless hours in the gym, on the mat, in the classroom, balancing their academics and their intense physical demands of the sport. They sacrificed a lot. Many even made the tough decision to quit football this year in the fall, knowing the wrestling season would require their full dedication. From early morning practices before school to grueling afternoon sessions, from hours of reviewing video technique to the Sunday grind, they pushed their bodies to the limit, many of whom suffered multiple injuries through the season, pushing through to be able to get back to help their team to reach the goal. It was also about discipline and following a very strict diet, especially during holiday season. Wrestling is from Thanksgiving all the way through March. We are ranked in the top 10 every week throughout the entire season, as you can see. Every week, we are ranked. In December, we hosted our team tournament and beat ranked number 7 Lakewood 38-29, and also beat ranked number 8 Adrian Madison 47-23. These were huge victories to show that what this team was capable of. Following those wins against those ranked opponents, we jumped to number 5 in the state and held on to that for 3 weeks. After winning team districts, we were predicted to beat Adrian Madison by 10 points at team regionals. We beat them already, and we knew we could do it again. In preparation, every detail matters. You would think, knowing we were likely going to make it to team states, our AD would take the extra time to double check the roster before sending the master list to the AD who was hosting team regionals. Unfortunately, this small yet detrimental detail was overlooked. Our AD sent over a list to Adrian Madison with only 14 wrestlers on it. This is what it looks like when we have 27, 28 kids, which is what this looks like. He mistakenly sent a list of individual districts instead of the full team roster. A simple glance at this list would have caught the season-ending error. This was his job. Had he sent the correct list
30 seconds.
to the school, none of this would have happened. The host AD and coach, aware of this situation, kept these documents secret and used them as oversight to their advantage. After calls to MHSAA during the meet, the athlete in question was cleared to wrestle. Another problem arose, as you heard. Following the events, our team was smeared across social media, news outlets, and wrestling pages. There have been accusations that have deeply affected the reputation of our athletes, coaches, and families. We had no leadership, and the secrecy surrounding these decisions and lack of support for our team was nothing short of deafening.
Mrs. Harding, if you have more, please email the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll keep it short, just this. Most concerning, our AD didn't give our team a fair opportunity. Without consulting any other athletic directors or engaging in a meeting with our coaching staff, he made the decision to forfeit. There was no open dialogue or transparency, a clear inability to do his job. Why did he not ask for an extension? Why did he lie to us about the deadline when there was no deadline? Making sure the team is eligible and good to go before districts is a very big part of the AD's job, and he failed our wrestling program. Also, the big stage, team states, is where lots of college coaches come to watch. It's the best of the best teams. A lot of our athletes want to wrestle in college, and they were stripped of that opportunity to be able to wrestle in front of these coaches. Thank you.
Thank you.
1890 Maple Shade Drive in Williamston. 1999. That was a very important year for my family. We decided we were moving to Williamston because of the community that it had, the integrity that it had, the leadership that it had. We had an AD, Mr. Mooney. We had Mr. Farrick. They were very pronounced people, and they meant a lot in this community, and they did a lot of right things for our kids. My kids grew up here. My kids went to school here. My kids play sports here. I am now a grandparent. I have 11 grandchildren in this school district from all the schools, ranging from kindergarten on up. This area means a lot to us. Our hearts and our dedication is in this community. And we as adults and we as leaders should set an example for our young people, our young parents that are now raising their kids here, that went to school here. And that's why they're here. This is important for everybody in our community. Our sports means a lot to our community. It helps with football, downtown. It increases revenue. We've got the shirt company downtown, the studio. We promote and promote and promote. We promote care. We promote love. My grandchildren are in many sports, not just wrestling. They are in basketball. They are in soccer. They're in baseball and softball. This is important to every sport. And if we don't have accountability of an AD doing the job that they are paid to do with our tax dollars, then we got a problem here, a serious problem that needs to be addressed. This should not be taken lightly. It doesn't go lightly in my house. I am relentless. I make sure that my kids are accountable, and I make sure my grandchildren are accountable. You need to be accountable.
30 seconds.
We all need to be accountable. Otherwise, we're going to kill our community. And it's important for everybody here. And I'm speaking for all of these people and my grandchildren and the kids that I don't have that are not my grandchildren, because they are their friends. And we are not just friends, we are a family, a united family. We need to do this. We owe this to our future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Murphy Gardner. My address is 101 Twin Ponds, Okemos. I'm a parent that failed to turn in his physicals for his son. I couldn't be more sorry about that. I feel awful. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I just wanted to make sure a couple things were known. After they found out the discrepancy that my son didn't have it, at no point did Paige call me. He relied on text messages from a 20-something coach to text me to talk about it. If he called me, maybe we could have figured out that I had something that would have worked. I could have told him that my kid's doctor was out of town and I couldn't get a hold of him. I messed up. My responsibility is to my kid and his health. I did get a physical for him. I didn't get the paperwork turned in. My responsibility is not to shield the school district from the liability of having a student compete in a combat sport for 3.5 months. My responsibility is to not shield the school district from the liability of having an athletic trainer treat a student medically without the parent's consent. My responsibility is not to have medical tests done on my son at the beginning of the season to measure his body fat and check his urine without my consent. I'm just dumbfounded that he went all this time without being on the roster. I'll bet, I don't have this for sure, but probably over the last year, he's probably been with the wrestling team in the spring, the summer, the fall, as much or more than any other student. I was kind of blindsided by the fact that no one thought that he was on the team in the athletic department. I don't know how that happens. If someone would have looked and noticed that he didn't have stuff on file, a 3-minute phone call could have been made to his doctor anytime before the end of the year, and he would have had physical. Whole problem would have been avoided. I guess I haven't gotten great answers as to what happened. I was told, I believe, that he wasn't in the system because I didn't file any paperwork for him. And if that's the case, that's an insane system. I don't know how you can rely on figuring out who has their paperwork turned in when not having any paperwork turned in makes you not show up. There's something broken
30
there, obviously.
seconds.
That's really all I have to share, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Erica Bushy, 4296 Meridian Road, Okemos. I am not a wrestling parent, but I am a parent of 2 student athletes. One of those student athletes happens to participate on the gymnastics team that is in a cooperative program with Hazlitt, St. John's, and Bath. I can't say I have specific examples of errors that have been made for the gymnastics team, but I can say that there has been zero recognition of the athletes as part of the gymnastics team from Williamston. Our Williamston girls make up more than half of that team. Last year they went to states. This year they went to regionals. They missed their bid to states by 0.06 of a point. There's never recognition. That lies with the athletic department. That lies with the athletic director. There needs to be equality when we're looking at sports. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be a celebration of all of our sports, and that doesn't happen in Williamston. I'm here tonight to support our wrestling families because they are very good friends. I'm devastated of what's happened for that team. And all I can think about is, when is it gonna be the gymnastics team's turn? When is it gonna be the golf team's turn? When is something like this gonna happen to our football program that we're so proud of? It needs to be rectified. Paige Paulson needs to be held accountable. He needs to do a better job, and he needs to not have conflict of interest when it comes to hiring outside sources. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Raflowski. I live at 1440 Trotters Lane in Williamston. I'm the middle school head coach here, and I'm here just to tell you that there's a process that we go through every season, and that process is we have several kids on the team. The AD here, Adam Supanowski, would come in every day and say, this person needs this person needs that form, this person needs this, and they can't wrestle until that happens. And apparently, that process, it was negligent at the varsity level. That never happened. So this should not have ever happened if it was done the way it was done here. Now, the other thing about this is we get access to records from each and every wrestler, and we can see what's missing and what's not, but we have never been told one time what we're responsible for and what the AD is responsible for. So there's a huge lack of process here. It's just, here it is, go for it. But the bottom line that I want to talk about, or I have talked about, is that process, which was perfect here, nothing fell through the cracks. Nothing, no forms were ever missing. And if somebody's eligibility was not there or was taken down by maybe lack of grades, I was made to known immediately. That process didn't happen at the varsity level. That's negligence. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? This is Blaze Harding, 132 North Clark Road, Dansville. My wife spoke earlier. We moved to this community 3 years ago. In process of looking where we're going to move, we got a chance to kind of shop around. Hey, what city is the best fit for us and what's going to work well? Well, one of the things that attracted us to Williamston was the community support, and we really thought highly of it. Still do. Still think it's a phenomenal community. Still think that we made the right choice. So one of the first things I did, I got involved in coaching. I coached the advanced youth kids, coached the middle school. I'm also one of the coaches at the high school. Okay, I spent a lot of time coaching a lot of these kids. I've got to know them. This group of juniors were the kids that I started with, and then several, from there on down, the sophomores, freshmen, I've had since, they were 8th grade and younger. And we knew that we were coming into something special here with this group of kids that we had. But what I was surprised about is the lack of support from the athletic department as a coaching staff. So we've never received any training on Planet High School. There was no protocols in place or anything like that. I don't even have a login to get into Planet High School as an assistant coach. There's no way for me to verify this stuff or any information on the wrestlers. It's given one credential to the head coach. The head coach, and I don't want to speak for him, but I've been involved in the process, so I have a little more insight than I think a lot of people do, that at the beginning of the year, he sees wrestlers from the middle school, kids who aren't wrestling anymore. There's maybe 70, 80 kids on this list, and they were all green lighted. Okay, which means essentially you go through and say, yep, everyone's good to go. At that point, there's no reason for him to continue to check this Planet High School roster, because anything from there on out, because initially, once they're approved, the only thing that's going to get them ineligible is things we have no control over, things we can't even see. We don't get to see their grades as a coaching staff. We don't get to see if their attendance records, all their stuff. That comes from the athletic department, and they're the ones who are responsible to tell us, hey, your kid who was eligible is no longer eligible. So as a coaching staff, unless there's some sort of protocols or policies in place, why would you go back and check it after it starts? Now, the wrestler in question, he's been on this system previously. We as coaches can't add people, we can't remove people, we can't edit anything, all we can do is view. He was on Planet High School all the way through middle school, and at some point, he got removed from there during this last year. We don't know how, we don't know why, and that's part of the problem too, is we haven't gotten any answers. There hasn't been anybody stepping up and said, hey, I'm the one who actually put together that list that was the wrong list. I'm the one who actually removed this student from Planet High School. So that's one of the problems we have on our end, is the first time that we ever heard of this master eligibility list, we were never CC'd in any of this correspondence, and we could have told them right away, that's the wrong list. We could have fixed this before it ever started, but we were never given any input or any insight into what the athletic director does and what their responsibility was for us as coaches. So unfortunately, we had no way to verify, rectify the situation after it was too late. And then when we did find out it was too late, we didn't find out till Saturday at the kids' individual regional that they already forfeited and submitted it on the night before. And if they would have told us that ahead of time, we could have done something about it. So I know I'm over my time, I apologize, but I was contacted by 2 other athletic directors that said, hey, why'd you guys forfeit? They probably didn't have to do that, because if it's a clerical error, there's different levels of offenses, it wouldn't have required a forfeiture. And at that point, you already kicked the can down the road and submitted the forfeiture. Adrian Madison had already been notified that they were moving on, and we couldn't take it back.
Thank you.
My name's Hawk Harding. I live at 132 North Clark Road, Dansville, Michigan. I'm a wrestler for Williamston. I feel I've not been correctly apologized to by Mr. Polson himself. He called us in one by one and attempted to apologize to us, but he took zero responsibility in his actions. And instead of calling us in one by one, or as a team, he just did it one by one, which I felt was not correct at all. He took zero responsibility, and he took everything from us, and it was a hard season, very hard season. Everyone was battling through injuries and sicknesses with the flu and everything like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Braden Young. I live at 800 Frost Road, Williamston, Michigan. I just wanted to say I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. Working hard every day, 7 days a week sometimes. Having practices in our barn every Sunday. Inviting our teammates over so we could get a little bit better. And we did this because we saw our potential as a team. We wanted to win that regional title bad. And not only are they my teammates, but they're also my brothers. I see them as my brothers and Jocelyn as my sister. So I just don't understand why an adult error is taken, like an adult error is in our mistake and it's taken away from us and not taken away from him. He had zero accountability when apologizing to us, called us in one by one. He didn't even come in to the wrestling room and apologize to us. He had someone else do it. So that's all I wanted to say. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I'm CJ Miller. I live at 3201 Britton Road, Perry, Michigan. I'm a wrestler on the high school team. I'm a freshman this year. Came in to this team. I've been wrestling, growing up with these kids my whole life. Wrestled with them for probably about 7 years of my life. This is my family. Like, we come up to at tournaments asked if we are a legit family. We've put in so much work in this program, in this team for so long, and for a mistake like this to happen is just not right to us. We have seniors on our team who got their dreams stripped. Seniors who didn't make it out of regionals, who had one last opportunity to step on the mat and lace up, and they got it all stripped away because of one dumb error. It is not right and it is not fair. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Young, 1890 Maple Shade in Williamston. Came here in 1999. You heard my wife say that. One thing that you guys have here is the #1 program in the state from 1999. Do you guys know what happened that year? First kid ever to win a 4-time state championship undefeated. Think of that. We were on the map. We're on the map all the time. All we have to do is say we're from Williamston. Because we had 2 kids do that. The next year, his brother did it. Undefeated. You know how hard that is? You know how many people have done that over the years? I mean, wrestling's been around since 55. Like, I don't know, how many is there? 6? 5, 6? He's the first one ever. How's that? You know, it's an honor, but we didn't see honor here. We didn't see the things that we have for leadership. So when you get into a mission statement at a school or even MHSAA, is it about the parents, about the staff? Who's it about? Think of who it's about. Your kid, my grandchildren. Think of this. That's what got affected, not you guys. And if you guys don't know who the people are and what we stand for in the wrestling community, nothing better than that people like to do is bash them when you're down. Well, we got bashed pretty good. Okay, so here we are. The guy who I want on my team lead me is not the guy who bails on us. I want the guy who's going to go out there and be right in the middle of it with me. You got a wrestling team here. You just heard a couple of the coaches. Think of who they are. Former police officer, business owners, guys that stand in the community and do things and people know who they are. You know? They don't sit here quietly. Give their time for $0. You know? But the thing is we get back to what it's all about. What's it about? Not you or I. It's about the children, the kids. And mission statement's about the student athlete.
30 seconds.
And that got forgotten by our AD. Thank you.
Thank
I'm the only girl on the wrestling team, and all of these people are my family, whether we're related or not. This was at districts, my districts, girls' districts. None of them were made to be there. None of them were forced to be there. But they chose themselves to be there because they're family, and they chose to support. We get up Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 we're at the high school at 6:30 to do a morning practice to make sure that we get where we want to get. And we finally did, and it all got ripped away from us because of one mistake, because one man couldn't do his job. And to not even get an official apology is unacceptable, and I think it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to ask one more time, and then we're going to move on. Anybody else that would like to address the board?
My name is Fred Elizondo. I live at 12164 Sandcastle Drive. I'm not a wrestler. I'm a baseball player. I help coach baseball here as well. But I got a son that took up wrestling 3 years ago. It's a great program. These coaches work hard with these kids. My kid gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, come to practice. I'll tell you something. I watch this team. I'm an old man. I'm older, and I'm choked up because you know what? You seeing the family here. You're seeing everything that these people stand for. They're all here. My son is a guy that just looks at, he's quiet, he's a hard worker, he comes to work, he works hard, but I tell you what, individually, team player, they're all that way. I was a VP of a global company. I hired wrestlers. I hired wrestlers for two reasons. One, they know how to work hard, they know how to work on their own, and they also know how to work as a team. So when I heard earlier, oh, these wrestling families and that, no, I'm going to tell you something. The wrestlers are strong people. I'm not a wrestler. Well, my son wrestles with me every day, but I'm not a wrestler. I did pin him today. So, but anyways, the only one thing that I see is that these kids have no buses. We have to caravan out here at 6 o'clock in the morning. The AD can't even get these kids a bus. So we're out caravanning, and we got 12 cars, 13 cars following each other, or 20 cars, I don't know. What's the chances of getting in an accident on the way? 20 times versus one time in a bus. I just think that's, you know, these kids can get a ride over to the downtown here to the football field, but can't get a ride to some of these tournaments that they do. That's just my feeling. I just feel that there needs to be a little bit more interest in this wrestling program because you guys, Williamston has a great, great name for that. And reading what I read in the paper and having people call me and tell me, friends of mine, hey man, I read what you guys did, what'd you guys do, how'd you cheat? You know, I think that's ridiculous. And I think that I'm not sure why the athletic director didn't stand up and write something. Why didn't he address the paper? Dr. Chapina did, and we appreciate that, thank you. But at the end of the day, you know what? This is just going to make us stronger. These kids have grit. I'm telling you, these kids have grit.
Seconds.
So again, they're going to get stronger. They're going to have a better year next year. I just felt that I needed to say something because you know what? I'm proud of all these kids. I'm proud of the coaches, and I'm happy to be part of the Williamston family. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jake Miller, 3201 Britton Road, Perry, Michigan.
Class 2001, I was on the 1999 wrestling team as a sophomore. I know what it took to earn the position that these kids lost. I know that it wasn't just a trip to Kalamazoo to represent their school. It was the parade out of town. It was the recognition before and after. It was the college scouts. My daughter Jocelyn was just referring to all her teammates being there for her. What she was getting at was the boys wrestled their district on Saturday. It's a very long day. It started at 9 in the morning, probably 7 o'clock in the morning for our wrestlers. Ended sometime that afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, all those boys were in the stands supporting her the next day, Sunday, as she wrestled for her chance to move on to regionals. So yes, we are a family, we are a team. I'm very proud of Williamston Wrestling and the sucker punch that we took due to the fallout of this forfeiture, as was just said, was horrible. And I appreciate Mr. Spina for helping us, address that head on. I really thank you guys for listening to all of us and hearing us. I apologize for any negative that's come to the Paulson family. Don't wish any ill will on anybody, but I do want what's best for our student athletes, because I'm proud to be a Williamston community member, and I'm proud to support our Williamston athletes, and I want them to be the best and have the best opportunities, and Williamston to continue to develop these athletes to be the best. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Nick Simmons. Thanks for Mark calling me out. I have to say something. 4461 North Williamston Road. It's not just about the wrestling team. What if this was the basketball team or football team or the golf team? They would all be doing the same thing. Like they said, not to beat a dead horse, it's about accountability. It's a pretty big screw up, period. And like one of the kids said, I don't remember which one it was before, I think Miller, you really screwed the seniors out of a trip. That's the bigger kicker too. Some of these guys will have another chance. Let's hopefully we get there. But it's been 25 years. It's been 25 years. We were the first sport to win one in 50 years or whatever it was. Who says what the next is for any sport? But football would be here too if it was them. And I get it's an error. It's a big error though. That's a big difference. I coach kids. I coach all these kids. I coach all local kids. I'm the head coach for Team Michigan. If I had an error like this, I don't think I'd be coaching anymore. It's a pretty big problem. And I know it seems like it's smaller than it is, but it's not when it's with everybody else involved that put the time in and the hard work in. Parents dragging their kids to tournaments at 7 a.m. by themselves, not on the bus. We don't complain about it, but this is a big error for the community. Like he said, I get calls all the time now and say, hey, why is Williamston cheating? Just because of who I am in the community and who my family is here. We hear it all, and it comes back on me. I'm like, it's a bigger error than actually what is being said out there, and it has nothing to do with cheating. But I feel something has to be done as well for all sports. Gymnastics, I know from what I'm hearing, it's more than just wrestling, it's other sports as well, and I think that's a big problem as well. I don't care if it's checkers. It should be the best for the kids, the math team, I don't care. I know it's not about winning, but it's still about winning. It's about what the kids want to get out of it. Some of the kids, the team state tournament might be all they get, which is fine. Some of the kids will wrestle in college, play sports in college, do gymnastics in college. But the kids that don't, you're stripping them of that right there and that accountability. That's all I really had to say. I didn't plan on saying anything until Mr. Young called me out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope I can do this. Linda Boostrom, 3649 Moyer Road, Williamston. So everybody's talked about the past in Williamston. What about the future? I have a 7-year-old grandson that said to me the other day, he wrestles. He took a state champion in Williamston youth wrestling last year at 7 years old. And he said to me, did you hear that everybody's saying Williamston cheated? What about that kid? What does that do for his future and the other grandchildren I have in this district? Same thing. We had a choice here 25 years ago when we moved here from the East Coast. We chose Williamston because of the rating of this school and this community. Very disappointed. I worked in the corporate world for 25 years. If I didn't do that one job
that I had to do on a daily basis, I wouldn't have had that job. Guaranteed. I don't know Mr. Paulson. He had one job, to support the student athletes. He's the athletic director of this community. One job. Prove me wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Justice Harding. I live at 132 North Clark Road, Dansville. I had the opportunity at Wrestling at States this weekend, and I had to deal with lots of different kids from different teams in some tournament asking about what we did to cheat as a team. And that was honestly kind of hard because I had to answer that and explain the entire situation multiple times this weekend. And then the night that the situation got explained to us and that we weren't going to be wrestling at States, that was probably one of the worst things that I've had to sit through. I mean, I think we had 3 seniors in the room at the time, and all of them immediately broke down and started crying, and I think pretty much the entire team was. This entire situation is horrible, and it stripped us of making history for making team states for the first time in, I believe, 26 years. And that's really all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve McGinnis, 1203 Berkshire Drive. I've been out of town for the last 10 days. I come back on Sunday and see this on Facebook, this whole out of the community page. I don't think it's right that this information should be out on the community Facebook page. I think it's calling Mr. Paulson out as a bad person. He is not a bad person. I know him personally, but he has given so much for this community in the sports. I've been many of times, hey, let's go play golf. No, I can't. I have to go do something with sports. He's at girls' volleyball games. He's at girls' soccer games. He's at all the games. He's at swimming meets. I see him at these things. Yeah, he's a friend, but he's always there for the students, and it always has been for the students. And when people come up here and say family, he is part of our family. He's part of the community family. It's not just, oh, it's him against the wrestling fans and wrestling team. I was a wrestler, so since I was 5 years old, I grew up in the UP. But yeah, I know what family is. And to me, yeah, he might have made a mistake. I don't know. I don't know all the facts, but he is family. The community is a family. That's why I chose to live here. Like I said, I grew up in the UP. I moved down here. Williamston was a great town. I married somebody from Williamston. I raised my kids and my children in Williamston. My children are involved in sports. I have a son that's in swimming and a daughter that's in soccer. I would not have any problem with Mr. Paulson being the AD all the way through my kids because I trust him. I understand, yeah, he might have made a mistake. I don't know, like I said. But I just want everybody to know he's a good guy, and he is about the family, and I think everybody should consider him family.
Thank you.
My name's Payne Young. I live on 800 Frost Road, Williamston. So I am probably one of the few, maybe the only person to not get an apology from Mr. Paulson. And this has affected me very much because this leads to like him not checking the list and all of this. And I had to sit through Saturday during regionals, cheering on my teammates and just saying, oh, I can't wait for states. I can't wait for team states. And then once my dad broke the news to me, it broke my heart. And I was just completely sad because I knew that was stripping away from me. And we had no idea. And there was no change for this. And I think some accountability should be taken and something should happen. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
My name is Jaden Young. I live at 800 Frost Road, Williamston. I'm not on the team, but my brothers just went up and spoke. it's hard to say that you make it to team states and then the next week, just, it's stripped away from you. Like, you can't go and say, yeah, we just made history for the first time in 26 years. Like, Dundee, they're a really good team. If you make it to the finals, which I think we would have had a really good chance as a team, we possibly could have beat them, but probably not. And then going out and watching individuals at states, it's hard to say and answer questions about, oh, did your team cheat, or is it just what I'm seeing on the internet? Did your team really cheat in what you won, or did you lose? It's just, it's hard to explain to people.
Thank you.
My name is Alex Stark, I live at 14 Apple Blossom Lane. I wasn't able to wrestle in regionals or the postseason because of a concussion I sustained, but I was there supporting my team. And I was there when we won regionals, and our entire bench and fan section came alive. I mean, people were jumping up, hugging each other. Like, this was such a huge deal that we made the team state tournament for the first time in 26 years or whatever it was. And then I wasn't at the individual regionals, so I learned over email over the weekend that we had been disqualified from states. And then having to go to school and hearing about our seniors who stepped on the mat for the last time without even knowing it. I mean, I never got an apology from Paige Paulson. No apology has been given to the team from Paige Paulson. There's been no accountability for it. And we were stripped of an opportunity to go accomplish something great as a team. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Amber Key. I'm 4838 Dietz Road, Williamston. I'm reading a message from our varsity cheerleading coach, and then I also have a couple things for myself. But our varsity cheer coach, Amanda Thompson, she wanted to say that she's also a Williamston alumni, and she's embarrassed at the lack of ownership from our athletic department. Everything she has read seems to be blank statements that lack empathy, remorse, and a true apology to the athletes and the coaches affected by this. She has coached at many other districts and have had children go through DeWitt schools. DeWitt's AD will process and send out lists to coaches when papers are missing, so that anything can be addressed without penalizing the athletes. She has always been able to see physicals entered into the systems in those portals and could always see the expiration dates of the physicals as well. That's not true in Williamston. Something needs to be done. This is unacceptable for the athletes that have been penalized in such a way that it cost them something they rightfully earned. The team deserved to be notified before anything was told to any other teams. Also, she wanted to mention the lack of AD presence on the sidelines. While in DeWitt, her AD was always there and never missed a game. On the few occasions that she has needed him, he was not present. She felt that when she spoke to others on the sidelines, it was not handled with any concern at all. There needs to be significant changes going forward so this never happens again to anyone in any sport. That was from Amanda. As for myself, I agree with all of it. There has to be accountability. This is the second time in a year that I'm standing in this boardroom because adults in this district failed our kids. The first one was graduation last year. It should have never gotten there. This should have never happened to the wrestling team because it should have been stopped before it ever gone with processes. This was adults that failed the kids. And so those adults have to be held accountable. We tell our kids that we have to hold them accountable for their actions, so we have to hold the adults accountable for their actions too. This was the administration, the athletic department. I don't know the ins and outs of what happened. I don't have all the details of what happened with the physicals or the rosters or anything like that. I wasn't there. I'm not a wrestling parent. But in any event, it had nothing to do with the kids that earned their spots and everything to do with the adults. And so that's where it has to stop. He has to take responsibility. It's his department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Martinez. I live at 1315 East Lovejoy Road. I've heard a lot of big words said today. Accountability, responsibility, integrity. These are all things I hold dear. I consider myself to be a member of this community. I have a daughter who is involved in just about everything she can be on the high school level, from the Freaky Friday play that was talked about earlier, to choir, to golf, who also had some states very recently. They were very proud of what they did, and I was proud to support them. I have heard everything that's been said tonight. I've heard the parent of the student in question who failed to turn in the physical get up here and say that a quick phone call could have resolved this. Absolutely, it could have. And so could action have resolved this. You know, there has to be accountability on the highest level. I agree. You know, I'm not going to stand here and say that mistakes weren't made. They were. But to say that they all fall in the lap of one person is laughable. There's no district that runs that way. There's no program. I have coached everything from t-ball to high school softball through my years of being a parent and being involved in everything. I have played sports. I can tell you that in my entire high school career, I saw my athletic director 0 times at any of my games. That was not his job. My coaches were responsible for me. If I failed to turn in a physical, my coaches are the ones who came to me and said that. It's a responsibility of everybody on every level. So if we're going to make changes, I agree, procedural changes do need to happen. If the coaches of these young people do not have access to that, I agree, that needs to be resolved, that needs to be fixed. There do need to be things that need to be changed. But to stand here and say that one person is wholly responsible for this, that's insane. There's no way that we can say that. Logically, it doesn't make sense. One person cannot be responsible for hundreds of student athletes. That is not a job that anybody can handle. There's no way. I have lived in this community on and off for several years, and I have watched a growth happen. Things that are happening here academically through sports are something to be very proud of. And yes, changes do need to happen. And I would like to address those changes, the procedural changes that can happen, things that we can get better at as a whole to make sure things like this don't happen. There's nobody that's going to stand up here and say that what happened to the wrestling team was not tragic. That was a very unfortunate set of circumstances. And once again, to say that that all falls on one person, I think that's laughable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Blake Elizondo. I live at 12164 Sandcastle Drive, Perry, Michigan. And I just want to say that watching my family, the wrestling team, and the seniors step out on the mat for the last time, not knowing it's going to be their last time, it was hard to watch. I mean, in school, if I don't turn one of my papers in, I'm held accountable for it. I have to do that, or else I get punished by my grades dropping. Nothing just doesn't happen if I don't turn my papers in. So that's just what I want to say.
Thank you. Last opportunity. Anybody else would like to address the board? Seeing none. I just want to, we typically don't do this, so I'm calling myself out of order a little bit here, but I feel that,
Can you speak up a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear.
yep, I feel that there needs to be said something, and I just want to take a moment to thank all of you in the audience and everyone who stood up and spoke tonight. We are a listening body. We heard what you were saying on both sides, and the family theme, I lived through that. I was part of the wrestling team in high school. I understand it. I was a part of it. And so I get the emotion that is being portrayed on both sides of this situation. We know that all of you are coming from a place of advocating not only for your student athlete, but the athletes in this sport, but all student athletes. That theme also was resonating. I also know that you're hurting. Some of you are feeling wronged. But one thing is for certain, that at the end of the day, this is incredibly sad for our student athletes that worked so hard for so many years, and we recognize that as a board. Please know that this will not be the only time that we will have discussions around this topic. I'm talking to the board now. And now I'm going to talk to you, the audience, that this administration is working to make sure that all athletic programs know the processes and how they will be followed. Again, this isn't something that we typically do at the end of public comment, but I feel like it was warranted, and I feel like you deserved this. Thank you again, and if you have any other questions, please reach out to Dr. Spina, and he can direct those questions, whether it's him or to somebody else. So thank you all so much. And with that, I will take any board member reports or requests at this time. Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion by Chris, second by Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you so much. We are adjourned.